They thought it would be a funny way to teach me a lesson by leaving me behind during our vacation. "You'll learn responsibility," my uncle said as he threw me $20 and drove away. I was 18. I didn't argue. I just started figuring things out. 14 years later, they walked into the lobby of my company, begging for help. I didn't even get up. I just said, "Security will show you out." Back then, I was standing outside a cheap motel in Myrtle Beach with just a backpack and that $20. It was supposed to be the start of our week-long family trip, but that day became the last time I let them treat me like a joke. We had arrived late the night before, and my uncle didn't want to spend money on dinner, so I went to bed hungry, planning to eat in the morning. I got up early, packed my stuff, and was ready by 7:30. When I stepped outside, the parking lot was completely empty. I figured they had gone to get breakfast, but then I saw a folded motel receipt under the door with $20 inside. No note, no phone call. They had just left me behind. A few hours later, I finally got one text from my cousin telling me it was a life lesson and that I should learn to be more responsible. My uncle apparently had said I needed to figure things out on my own now that I was legally an adult. They thought it was hilarious. A teaching moment, something to laugh about over seafood later that night. I didn't respond. I didn't beg them to come back. I walked across the street to a coffee shop, sat down with my bag, and opened my laptop. I didn't have much, just some savings from odd jobs I'd done during senior year and a cheap Chromebook I bought off Craigslist. I hadn't planned to work that week, but I still had access to my freelance accounts. I used the Wi-Fi to check for any small gigs. There weren't many, but there was one. A business just inland needed help sorting out their inventory software. I messaged them. They responded within the hour. By 4 p.m. I was on a bus out of Myrtle Beach, heading 2 hours west for the job. I used part of the $20 for the fare, and I pocketed the rest. That was the moment it clicked for me. I wasn't part of a family. I was part of a running joke, the lazy kid, the quiet one, the afterthought. So I decided that if they wanted me to figure things out on my own, then I would, just not the way they expected. I didn't speak to them again for years, changed my number, deleted old accounts, worked like hell, went from one freelance gig to the next until I built enough of a portfolio to apply for real contracts. I paid for school, built my own company, and made sure I never needed to rely on anyone like that again. I never posted about my progress, never sent updates, never bragged. 14 years later, they walked into the lobby of my downtown office carrying folders, resumes, and desperate smiles, and I didn't even stand up when I saw them. I used to think disappearing was easy. Change your number, wipe your socials, move to another city, start over. For a while, it worked. I became a ghost to them. No birthdays, no holidays, no awkward texts, just silence, and I liked it that way. What I hadn't accounted for was the internet's long memory. About 6 months before they showed up, I did a short interview with a regional tech magazine, nothing big, just a profile piece on young entrepreneurs in the Southeast. I didn't even want to do it, but our marketing guy thought it would help with recruitment. I agreed on the condition that they didn't mention anything too personal. They didn't, but the article included the company name, the city, and a photo of me standing in the main lobby, the one with our name in giant letters behind the desk. That was all it took. A cousin of mine, not one who went on that trip, but still tangled in the family web, must have seen it and passed it around. I didn't hear about it until later, but apparently it spread fast. A few Facebook posts, a couple of "can you believe this?" comments, then silence again until the day they walked through the front doors. I was behind the reception desk, not because I had to be, but because I like spending mornings down there every now and then. You learn a lot watching people come and go. I was talking to our building manager when I saw them. My uncle was in the lead, shoulders squared like he owned the place. My aunt was behind him, holding a leather folder like she was here for a job interview. My cousin, now pushing 30, looked unsure, like maybe he realized this wasn't going to go the way they planned. They had no idea the man behind the desk was me. I wasn't in a suit, just jeans and a black polo, hair shorter than it was back then, no nervous energy, no fake smiles. I watched them scan the room and walk toward the receptionist, asking to speak to the CEO. I didn't move, just leaned back slightly and said their last name. They froze. All three turned toward me like they were trying to place my face. It took about 3 seconds. Then my uncle smiled like the past had been erased, like we were about to laugh and hug and catch up on good times that never happened. He opened his mouth to speak. I didn't let him. Security had already been briefed. I gave them a heads up a week earlier after hearing rumors through mutuals that some family members were proud of what I'd built and might drop by. I hadn't known who or when, just that something was coming. The guards were discreet, polite, no scene. They escorted the three of them out through the side doors. My uncle tried to talk on the way. My aunt looked mortified. My cousin didn't say a word. They didn't get past the lobby, and as the doors closed behind them, I finally exhaled. I thought that would be the end of it. They got the message. They were embarrassed, and they'd crawl back into whatever hole they'd been hiding in for the past decade. But they didn't. The next morning, my assistant flagged an email that came through the general contact form on our site. It was from my aunt, polite, overly formal, like she was writing to a stranger. She said they hadn't realized it was my company until they were already inside, claimed they were just looking for advice on a project and had heard good things. Then she slipped in a line about reconnecting after all these years and how family ties should matter more than past misunderstandings. I didn't respond. That afternoon, my cousin emailed me directly. His tone was more casual, like we were just old friends who hadn't talked in a while. He said he'd left the family business a year ago, was looking for work in tech, and had always looked up to me. Said he regretted what happened back then, even if it wasn't his call. He included his resume. Still, I said nothing. The next one came from my uncle. It was short, defensive, and full of half apologies. He said he never meant to actually leave me behind, that it wasn't serious, and that he figured I'd catch up eventually. He said the family missed me, that they were proud of what I'd accomplished, that it'd mean a lot if I just took a call. Then he pivoted, said their real estate business was struggling and they were looking for investors. Said it could be a win-win. I flagged the email as spam. For the next 2 weeks, the messages kept coming, from cousins I hadn't spoken to in over a decade, from an aunt I barely knew, even from a neighbor who somehow got looped in and said the family was just misguided in trying to reconnect. They didn't get it. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they saw something they could use. And when I didn't respond, the tone started to shift. First came the guilt. Then came the anger. One cousin sent a long message accusing me of being arrogant and holding a grudge over a joke. My aunt followed up with a weird mix of flattery and condescension, saying that while I'd done well for myself, I shouldn't forget where I came from. I hadn't. I remembered exactly where I came from, and I had no interest in going back. By the end of that month, the tone of every message had curdled. No more fake warmth. No more polite outreach. Now they were mad. I hadn't played along. I hadn't given them the chance to rewrite history and play family again under the glow of my success. Instead, I ignored them. And to people like them, silence is the worst insult. Screenshots started to circulate, old photos, petty Facebook posts, even vague public rants from my uncle about people forgetting their roots and thinking money makes them better. My name wasn't in any of them, but everyone who mattered knew who they were about. A mutual connection forwarded me a group message from my cousin to some of his friends. In it, he called me bitter. Said I was exaggerating what happened at the beach, that they didn't really leave me, just went to breakfast and assumed I'd catch up. Said I was spinning a sob story for attention. Except I still had the original motel invoice. I still had the timestamp text where he laughed and said, "Lesson learned." I still had the email he'd sent just 2 weeks ago begging for a job and saying he regretted what they did. They couldn't control the story anymore, and they hated that because people were starting to ask questions. I wasn't some distant relative with a startup anymore. I was the founder of a company that had landed major clients and national press. And when people saw them name-dropping me, they assumed we were close, that I'd helped them, that we were connected. They didn't like having to explain why I wasn't returning their calls. That's when the real low blow came. My uncle filed a lawsuit, said I'd stolen an idea from a family brainstorming session years ago, that some of the core technology we used was something he had helped me develop conceptually. It was laughable. He once thought VPN stood for Very Private Network, but it still landed on my desk with a court seal. My lawyers had it thrown out within a week. It didn't matter. He wasn't expecting to win. He just wanted attention, leverage, a reaction. He didn't get one from me. What he got was a quiet call to one of our firm's contacts at a publication he admired. I didn't ask for an article. I just corrected the record, sent over documentation, timelines, copies of his emails. I wasn't looking to humiliate him, but if people wanted the full story, I made sure it was available. I never had to say a word, and that's what really broke them. After the lawsuit was dismissed, everything went quiet, no more emails, no more social media posts, just silence. The kind that settles in when people realize they've lost the one thing they thought they had over you, control. But I wasn't done yet. I don't believe in revenge for the sake of pain. I believe in truth and in clarity. I don't need to yell or slam doors. I let people destroy themselves with their own actions. I just make sure the mirror is clean enough for them to see it. A few weeks later, I got a call from a nonprofit tech incubator I sponsor. They'd received a desperate inquiry from a small real estate group asking for help modernizing their systems, claiming to be family connected to me. They dropped my name, said we were close, that I might even join the project. I scheduled a call through the incubator's director just long enough for a video conference. When the camera came on, I watched my uncle blink in confusion, then panic, then fake cheer. My aunt sat beside him, still trying to look put together, as if this wasn't the last stop on a long list of burned bridges. My cousin looked down the whole time. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I simply said, "I'm not your family. You left me on a sidewalk with $20 and a smirk. And I turned that into a future alone. You had your shot at my life when you were in it, and you threw it away." Then I made it clear any attempt to use my name, past or present, would be met with legal action. I wasn't interested in playing the villain in their next story. I was interested in making sure they couldn't leech off my name while pretending the past didn't exist. They didn't argue. They didn't cry, they just stared. I ended the call with a simple truth: you taught me responsibility. You taught me that no one's coming to save me. That lesson paid off, just not the way they wanted. After that, I had our legal team quietly send cease and desist letters to every client, sponsor, and contact they'd approached using my name. Every request, every pitch was shut down. A year later, their business folded. They blamed the market. I never posted about it, never bragged. But people in our circles talk, and every so often I'll get a message from someone who knew them asking if it's true that I really got abandoned on a beach at 18 and built an empire from it. I just say this: they thought leaving me behind was the end of my story. It was just the start, and I've never looked back. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support means everything and helps the channel grow. Thanks for watching.